Welcome to the future. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. On today's episode, we're going to be doing a motion design centric AMA. Ask me anything. We've got a whole lot of people in this room, so without further ado, I'm not going to do a lot of preamble. Let's introduce the team. Hey, Dream Team, what is up with you guys? Say happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Hey.
I didn't know we're cutting to us.
Yeah, me neither.
Look, you guys remember rehearsal? We just went through this.
You said them first.
No.
Skipped over.
No, you guys weren't paying attention.
No,
I'm
we
sure
were
they're paying attention.
Always paying attention.
All right, it's good to see you guys. I just want to remind both Matthew and Greg, since there's one mic between the two of you, you have to speak into the front of it, and whoever's going to do more of the talking, just arc that boom arm into your face. Now.
Okay.
Now. Oh, there we go. Now you sound a lot better. Now you come in with the bass, Greg. I didn't know you were going to bring the sexy voice on. All right, trying to woo the ladies. This is the ladies episode. All right, cool.
Absolutely not.
All right. There's a whole bunch of people, more people than we've ever had kind of in the studio, I think. There's 4 of them. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Hey, guys, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Why don't you guys introduce yourself one at a time? Let's go. Grant, maybe with you?
Hi, my name is Grant Inoue. I'm a 3D animator and motion graphics artist and VFX artist.
All right.
Hi, my name is Raymond Arias, and I do video production, and yeah, I'm just learning anything I can.
All right, for the 2 remaining guys, try to say your name a little more smoothly, all right? You do remember your name, right?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
All
Who's
right.
next?
My name is David. I am a video editor / videographer.
All right, next up.
My name's Edwin Martinez, and I'm a graphic designer.
And just in case you guys don't recognize the name, Edwin was the winner of the live call-in. This is not preordained or kind of premeditated, but he was also the winner. He said, I'm going to be on your show next week. I'm going to pick up the book myself in person. So here he is. He's on the show. All right, guys. What are we going to be talking about today? There's a bunch of questions that have come in from motion design. I've been gathering them from the School of Motion, from Twitter, and from our Facebook Pro group. And, of course, our live team and Matthew and Greg are going to be here to help me answer all of your motion-specific business questions. We're not going to talk about what plugins to use or what software to use or color correction presets you should buy. None of that. But before we get into that, let's roll the title! Ah! All right, in case you guys were wondering, I'm not sick anymore. This is Chris 100%. I've had some rest. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into some questions right away from the wonderful people from the School of Motion alumni group. There's a Facebook group that for everybody that's been part of Joey Corman's course, you can enter it, I believe. I'm in there infiltrating and I've been listening, social listening. I asked them, what are some of your struggles? And here we go. And I'm just pulling out some of the questions that came up. And I'd love to get Matthew, Greg, and Grant or his entire team to talk about this as well if they feel like it. Although some of these I've already answered ahead of time. Here we go. How do I get out of my soul-sucking job doing corporate work and launch my career as a freelancer? I have a ton of debt from school, so my runway is very limited. I'm going to give you guys a moment to think about that. I have some answers ready to go. But let's see what you guys think. See if you guys agree or disagree with some of my advice. Here we go. This is like a Dear Abby episode, except for it's Dear Chris, and it's AMA. So here's the answer. Number 1. First of all, if you got a full-time job, you have a lot of debt, keep your full-time job. It would be irresponsible for me to tell you to quit that, even though you yearn to do that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make an escape plan. Okay, so what you need to do is to save as much money as possible. That'll mean that you'll have to make some hard decisions around cutting any extraneous expenses. Keep your rent as low as possible. Don't buy any new clothes. Don't buy a new car if you don't need to. Don't buy anything. You got to build up that runway. 3 months is a good amount of runway. Number 2, build up some side work that you can do after hours and on the weekends. This is known as the side hustle, #side hustle. Get some overflow work from friends, peers, and potentially smaller studios that need extra help. Contact them with a simple email and link it to your work and be persistent about this. This means that every couple of weeks, if you have something new to share, do share it with them. Lastly, number 3, once you have 3 months of ramp built up, 3 months is the minimum because it's going to take you a while to get more clients and it'll give you some breathing room. And you have a steady flow of work, it's time to jump ship. And there's an art to leaving the mothership. Put in your notice like a professional in writing. Tell them You have 2 weeks notice, or if they need a little bit more time, you can give it to them. Be super professional about it. And if you do this well, the company you used to work for will very likely send you overflow work because they haven't been able to replace you so quickly. They're going to want to send the kind of work that they were normally giving you to do, and you'll be able to get that. So then you can establish a freelance rate. You get to maintain a professional relationship with your previous employer. Everybody wins. Matthew and Greg, what kind of sage advice do you guys have for us today?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like at some point what you want to do is be able to bridge the gap between having zero freelance work and enough. Maybe it's like at some point 50% of what you want to be making a month is coming from these side gigs and side hustles and after hours work.
Right.
I think finding the right time to do that is probably going to be the most scary and the most important too.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Matthew?
the only thing I have to add to that is just portfolio, making sure that your portfolio is prepped and looking awesome. So maybe you've been doing 3 years of corporate work and it's not super hot, then you just have to spend all your time after hours making a nice, at least 60-second reel of just solid work, so that as soon as you're ramping off your old job, you can start dropping lines to a bunch of companies to start interviewing or just start requesting for freelance work.
That is great. Grant and team, do you guys have anything you want to add, or should I just keep plowing through the questions?
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Not
concur.
everybody-
We concur.
Everybody's agreeable. The show is still young. The show is still young. There will be plenty of time for us to disagree. All right? Okay, next question here. I want to leave advertising agencies and move more into animation studios, getting over the hurdle of lack of program skills. In animation studios, I have the inspiring wealth of fellow talented illustrators, animators, and storytellers. I think I could stand to learn a lot faster. What do you guys have to say about that? Leaving a ad agency and going for more of a motion design boutique. What should they do? And is the promise of working with fellow like-minded and kindred spirits, is that true? What do you think? Anybody? Or nobody at all?
Well, I feel like it helps, like getting the creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
As far as a boutique, I wouldn't know exactly how to do that. Like getting into a creative place, right? That's I guess it's just, I don't know, a lot of hustle.
Okay, that is a lot of hustle. So this is one of those ones where it's a compounded question, you guys, where they're asking about, well, I want to go where the grass is greener. So I'd like to debate that a little bit to kind of shed some light on that. And then he has or she has some confidence about the lack of program skills. So I assume they're not as good as they need to be in terms of the software mastery of the tools itself. And so first let's kind of tackle is it better in a boutique studio than it is at a larger corporate type of entity like an ad agency? Matthew and Greg, what do you guys think? You guys have freelanced a little bit, right?
Yeah, not really for a giant corporate agency, I'd say. That's tough. I imagine the biggest difference is probably the type of work that you're doing, and perhaps the variety. You know, typically if you're at a boutique, you're wearing a lot of hats. You might be a designer and an animator. You might do a lot of things. On a bigger scale, I imagine, you know, you probably do that one thing really, really well. It's more like a film production or something where you are the girl who does this thing, right? Or you are the guy that does that thing.
You're talking about like more specialized?
Yeah.
A cog in the machine,
Right.
if you will?
I would guess. No experience in that, but that's what I would think at least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Matthew, what about you? Any experience in that space?
No, I've never worked in a giant corporate structure for animation, but I would kind of just echo what Greg said. I think wherever you go, each studio, regardless of how big it is going to be specialized in a couple of things. And wherever you work and wherever you bounce around, you're going to pick up those habits, you're going to pick up those efficiencies as you work. So the more you cross-pollinate, I think the more types of skills you're going to pick up. So that's just been my experience bouncing around as a freelancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never worked for anybody for a very long time, and especially I've never worked in-house as a motion design artist. However, I do keep tabs on people that were former interns here or people who have been staff and have moved on to greener pastures and have gone corporate. By corporate, it could be like a big broadcast design studio, like a network. And typically speaking, the things that I've heard, and you guys can refute this if it's not true in terms of your own experience, but the corporate job generally is pretty cush. There are busy seasons, but there are slow seasons. The opposite is true within smaller boutique studios because everybody's doing everything all the time and we're just fighting to stay alive every single day. And so there isn't generally this slow season and work is less predictable. So it could be on a Wednesday that there's a new job that's kind of due and everybody, all hands on deck, everybody gets together and gets the work done. So generally speaking, you have more consistent work. You're on an annual contract, so you have some job security. If they were to let you go before that term comes up, I think they have to pay you for your contract. So they're kind of stuck with you and you're stuck with them for the most part. And if you're talking about an ad agency, if they're building a post-production motion design studio in-house, the things I've heard, and Matt, I think you can validate what I'm hearing on the street, is that they serve really great food. They're ordering sushi all the time. They have these great posh studios, lots of free space, everybody, and there is a lot of hurry up and wait. So there are moments when you're chill and you're like not sure what to do, and then there are jobs that come down and it comes hard and furious and you're there all night, night after night through the weekend, but that's kind of like within the season of being busy and not busy. That's what I've heard.
I hear the same thing on the streets.
Okay, so you hear the exact same thing. And the work is not going to be as varied. You might work on 1 or 2 accounts for the entire time that you're there. And that's why they have you, because they have a client that needs this kind of work, and you're going to be working on the same thing over and over again. So there's that stability, but then there's the boredom of repetition. Conversely, in a smaller independent studio, and I guess you can extrapolate and say that most of what I'm saying applies across the board, whether it's motion design or not, even though this is a motion design specific episode. I'm pretty sure at most kind of design creative services is going to work something like this. Smaller studios, lots of different projects come in all the time. Variety is the spice of life, as they say, so you're going to be juggling lots of different things, and that's what's really cool about that. Now, in terms of the lack of your software skills, thankfully, there are so many resources that are available from all the friends and partners that we have out there in the world, from the School of Motion, Learn Squared, Mograph Mentor. Who am I forgetting, you guys?
Grayscale Gorilla.
Grayscale Gorilla, yes. How could I forget those guys?
Video Copilot.
Video Copilot, Andrew Kramer. Andrew Kramer is going to be on the show. It's going to be on the show next year, you guys. We're going to start strong. All right. So tons of resources. A lot of them are inexpensive. Some of them cost a little bit of money. But if we're talking about price, we're talking about the wrong thing. We should be talking about value. Value, value, value. If you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 and you're getting a ton of knowledge that would, be exclusive to an private art school education, it's tiny. It is tiny. So do your due diligence, talk to some people, figure out what programs in terms of like the education programs are better fit for you and your learning style, and go for that. All right, I'll move on to the next question. We're doing okay? Our mics are loud, guys? I don't know. I'm going to keep moving on. Matthew and Greg, you guys are monitoring Facebook and YouTube for me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool. I see some things coming in there, but let me know when you see something interesting.
I do have one question.
Go ahead, fire away.
Okay. So let me make sure.
Put your mic right. Yeah, put your face right in there.
Let me make sure I get
Oh
this
yeah,
right.
there we go. Maybe not that close, but
Okay.
yes.
William Hardaway had a question on Facebook, and it was regarding a good strategy to generate work while you're currently employed.
A good strategy to generate work while you're still employed. Okay, I have to ask, do you have a personal site that's up? Is it updated? Are you putting effort and energy into showcasing the work that you've completed? I think that's the lowest hanging fruit, and you'll be surprised at how few people actually update their site. One, because they count on job security that isn't really there. And two, they just like, what am I doing? I'm tired at the end of the day. I don't want to stare at another design project while I'm still working. And that's the effort that you're going to need to make if you want to start building up an audience around the work that you do. So build up your portfolio, get the site updated, and then start to send that work out to other people. And that's important. Maybe you're just sending it out to get feedback. Just get feedback. You're not really looking for a job, sort of. Another way is to post regularly on social media. This is a great way to exercise personal projects. Maybe the clients killed an idea or never even approved an idea that you did that you just loved. If it's okay with the company, I would share some of that, the behind the scenes, especially 3 or 6 months after the project airs. That's a good kind of time frame to say, okay, it's cool. I don't want to release anything. I don't want to be the person who leaks information or get ahead of the campaign itself. And once it goes wide, I think you're somewhat safe to show pitches or things that you did. And I think that sometimes is more interesting than the finished product. You guys have any additional thoughts?
No?
Pretty good.
That's good. Just
Pretty
drop,
good.
drip drop it out there on social media, man.
All right. So I'm going to go with the next question. Here we go. I can say I desperately want to go freelance full time. Wow. Desperately. Currently saving up 3 months of salary as a safety net. Good. Somebody's been paying attention. But I also admit that there's a bit of fear to diving off the high dive, the stable job, head first. Okay, so they have the security of a full-time job. We heard that. They have enough money saved up, but they're not ready to just release. They're not ready to get off the plane. And so here's my response to that. If your dreams don't scare you, your dream isn't big enough. And it's supposed to be scary. Going off on your own, having the flexibility of working whenever you want with whatever company you want, jumping from shop to shop, and also commanding a higher day rate, also comes with it a degree of insecurity, of not knowing. And that's the trade-off. So if you like being comfortable, if you like having a secure paycheck, having your weekends not worrying about where the next job is going to come from, maybe freelance or being an independent business owner is not for you. And it's not for everybody, you guys. It's like, it seems like whenever we're on one side of the fence, we long for the other side. And it's okay to be happy exactly where you're at. If you're at a place where you're growing and learning and being challenged by other artists and creatives, I think that's a pretty good place. If you're at a place that supports your development by sending you off to conventions or maybe picking up half the tab of a training program that you want to learn, that might not be a bad place. If that place doesn't offer you the creative opportunities that you're looking for, you got to learn how to make them and ask for them. Maybe there are other opportunities that you can learn in terms of being on client calls or learning how they bid projects or how they manage the company. Become more engaged in the other aspects that they are strong at, because every company that's still in business is good at something. Learn from that part.
Right.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because Mark Cernosa, he's on our channels all the time. Anyways, he was asking, is 7 years too long to stay at a company? And I think just to echo your answer there is like, basically he wants to know how long do you stick around at a place?
Like how long is too long?
Yeah, how long is too long? And for me, I've been here at Blind now as staff for about 7 years, and I'm still here. And the only reason I'm here is because I'm still growing. Like the opportunities are constantly changing here. We've had to change as creative directors the types of jobs and opportunities we have to go after. We've had to broaden our skill set as far as business development and such. But that's a reason for me to stick around. I have personal growth within this structure of being staff here at Blind.
All right. So Matthew's been here for a couple of years. We've had people here that have been at Blind for over 15 years. They're not here anymore, but they were here a long time. And so I think the time limit is a kind of an artificial measurement of how much you grow and how much opportunity there is. And that's entirely up to you. And it's very much an individual case by case scenario. Okay. And Grant and team, if you guys want to say something, start talking. And
well, we just had a junior leave our company, and he was there for about 3 years, and he was extremely talented. And his plan from the beginning was to stick around for 3 years. In the first year, he would acclimate himself into the company, and second year, you get used to that and see what you can do and try to go above and beyond. And then his third year was basically to continue that and then figure out his next steps. And I think you guys are totally on point with the fact that it's different for everyone. And I think if the company the thing you want to avoid is when you start to plateau, and that could be the fault of the company not adhering to your needs, but it's also it could be the fault of you and not seeking out what other things you can learn at the company and things like that. But when you have gone through all of that and tried to extract as much as you can out of that company, and you feel that it's time for you to move on, then it might be time to move on. But where you hit that point, I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah. I think like all things, there's a natural life cycle to relationships. supposedly if you get married and you make this commitment that you're going to be with somebody till death do you apart, that cycle is until you die. But in most relationships, it's not as firm. And even in marriage, it's not. I think both partners, the business owner and the employee, need to do the dance together. Sometimes it seems like in the case of what you just shared, Grant, is that the freelancer or the staff person has outgrown the company and they don't find that they're in step anymore. My feeling is always when somebody comes on staff with us that it's a temporary relationship. And that temporary relationship could last 10, 15 years. It could last a lot longer. Or it could be really short. And I assume that if somebody meets another partner out in the world that gives them something more of what they want, I don't want them to stay in a relationship because they feel a certain sense of loyalty and commitment. So my challenge always is to continue to grow, continue to evolve, and to challenge the people who are on staff here so that they feel like we're always dancing together, they're always in step together. And that's a challenge for all companies. And you have to start looking at it like that. So here's a word of warning to every business owner that might be watching this, is that you think oftentimes, gosh, if Mary just showed up more, or if they took initiative to learn some 3D program or some compositing technique, or why isn't their work as good as some of these other people that I bring on as a freelancer? And you don't make that investment into them, they ultimately quit because they're not learning and growing. Your company suffers because the work they've been producing hasn't been as good. But imagine how much it costs the turnover. That person leaves, you have to onboard a new person, so you have to go through a hiring process, and if you don't know a lot of people, you're going to have to hire a headhunter who typically charges 20% of the person's salary. And then there's the ramp up time, and then there's the gelling out process with the rest of your creative staff. That's a lot of money. Wouldn't it be better if you took half of that every single year and invested it back in the growth and the culture of the company? That is a more prudent and cost-effective way of growing your company and growing your staff. Invest in your team, help them to grow, and they will help you grow, and it will impact the bottom line. So you don't need to feel a woo-woo about this or feel like, oh, you're doing the right thing from a culture point of view. Just do it because it's fundamentally good business to take care of your people. I'm going to move on. Next question, okay? All right. I'm talking to myself when I ask if I can move on because I'm moving on. I want to find a good working balance between artistic and personal projects and commercial gigs. Help! All right, I have an answer already. Look at this, guys. All right, my answer is this. The jobs that pay tend not to be creatively rewarding. The projects that are good for your creative soul don't pay well, and therein lies the problem. And when those two things align, like good pay and good creative, it's like magic, and it doesn't happen all that often. Now, you might be at one of those rare places where this happens every single day, and you have the best projects, but rarely ever is that the case. So my philosophy, my principles, I like to make money first, and then use that money to fund art projects. Sometimes I do this for myself, and sometimes I do this for brands or bands that I like. So they can't pay me, so it's a situation where I'm going to rob from Peter to pay for Paul. And that's how we're going to have to do this. Because I don't expect the most creative projects with the greatest creative freedom to be the ones that I'm able to like line my pocket and buy myself some time and build out that ramp. It doesn't always happen. However, it does happen from time to time. And when it does, we win awards and we make money. It's a good thing. Any other thoughts on this, you guys?
I think that's pretty true with all the work. There's that sliding scale of like really cool and interesting or pays really well, right?
Yeah.
And they're on opposite sides. And I think, actually, this is something you mentioned to me a long time ago, Chris, is you have to strike a balance between the two, because if you're only doing jobs that are going to pay a lot of money, your portfolio will suffer. And no one won't want to hire you because they're not going to think you're interesting.
Right.
Or you do all interesting work, but
You're broke.
you're super broke. Yeah.
You still live in your parents' garage.
Yes.
No offense to anybody that still lives in their parents' garage. I'm just saying that as a kind of a metaphor.
Yeah,
All right.
I think to add to that too, some people have the ability to control what they work on by being highly selective of what they show in their portfolio and only showing that thing, so that people only come to them for that work. And some people, some individuals in the world are very talented, and there's a demand for it, so they're able to flourish sometimes for a short while and sometimes for much, much longer if that stuff stays in trend. So it's a possibility to do stuff that you love and still get paid, but it's like lightning trying to strike in a very particular place.
Mm-hmm. Now, I just want to say this. There's a person named by the name of Lifty on YouTube. He's got a man crush on Greg because he just cannot get enough of just typing Greg's name in. over and over and over again.
It's that voice.
It's like
It
he's
is the
rapping.
voice. The authors think it's the hair. It's the voice and hair. It's a deadly combination. Lifty, I'm going to say you just stop hitting Command V on this one and just relax a little bit. Because if you don't, somebody might accidentally bump
going
you
on
out of
over
this
here?
group. I don't know. I'm just saying. Somebody might be. It's like Greg Gunn,
Young
the gun
gunner.
life, young guns, fire them guns.
Boy.
You know, it's just too much gunning here. All right? You guys get over it. Get a room. Let's move on with the show. Okay, here we go. How do I discover the niche my collective fits best into and pursue those clients? It's kind of a strange question. I'll read it again. How do I discover the niche my collective fits best into and pursue those clients? And if you read this, there's a couple of things to kind of extract from this. When this person says my collective, it sounds like it's more than one person. So there's a small group of people, and they're interested in lots of different things. And then they also want to know how do they get those clients just because they're interested in it. So guess what, guys? I already have an answer worked out. I don't know. I like to come prepared for these things. All right. So here we go. My answer is, what are those areas that you are passionate about? The first step is to identify this. Who do you know in your network that might be able to connect you? So if I'm really into sports brands, okay, now I start to think about who's really into sports and who might be in-house somewhere as a marketing director, as an art director, as the designer, and I start to reach out to them. And I express to them, I'm really interested in this thing. Look at all this work I've done. I'd love to do some of this work. Do you know anybody? So you start to network and you start to ask. Now, oftentimes we just gun for the biggest brands, the most well-known, the ones that have the most market shares. But the problem there is this, is that everybody is trying to get in there as well. Like the world loves Nike, right? The world loves Adidas or Adidas. They love that. So there's all these people who want to do creative stuff for them, and they don't have as many opportunities. And I have a strategy on how to overcome that. This is straight up from the sales and marketing course that we sell. So here it is. Sometimes when the big brands are out of reach, I would like for you to consider someone in their supply chain. Someone in their supply chain, like who makes the laces for Nike? Who makes the sole for them? Who does their marketing? Who does their advertising? Who does their shipping? Who does their packaging? Look to break in from one of the people in the supply chain and then work your way up. Another way to do this is to work with a challenger brand. Somebody who's really scrappy, like Little Chicken Hawk who wants to take on the big one. They're more aggressive, they're scrappy, and they're looking to do things on this scale of the established brand, but they don't have the budget. So they're going to be looking for different companies to work with. So as they kind of say, well, company A, B, and C are out of our reach, they're already working with them, or they're too expensive, there's an opening for you there. Go and work with the challenger brand, with your sights set one day on working with the brand that you are truly in love with. But this is how you begin to build expertise in what you do, and you start to work into the category that you're very passionate about. And then just keep working up the chain. That's my answer there. Okay. Should we do a musical interlude? Should we talk to Grant? And Grant, why are you here today, man?
To sit in on the show.
All right. Mission accomplished. One. Where's my dinger?
We're here
Okay.
to look nice.
You here to look nice?
Yes.
Aaron didn't do you any favors on that line.
Well, I came to get my book.
Oh, you came here to get your book. All
I was
right.
gonna save you on the shipping cost.
You're so thoughtful, man.
Oh, no problem.
So thoughtful. How far was the drive out here, you guys?
Like an hour,
Yeah, about an
16
hour.
minutes.
An hour and 60 minutes?
16 minutes.
Oh, an hour and 16.
Yeah, sorry, let me alliterate.
Yeah. And
Or-
what city did you drive out from? Enunciate.
Enunciate, there you go.
You can also alliterate if you like.
Yeah. Well, I came from Corona.
Yeah, well,
These guys.
me and David, we came from Fontana.
That's where we're
from the IE. That's where we live.
The IE, the
Yeah.
Internet Explorer, the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't use that kind of language with me. The Inland Empire. Are you guys not at work today?
Don't
I,
tell anyone.
I ninja'd out.
Okay, so
I'm sick today.
you're supposed to be at work or no? You guys are lying. Come on.
I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
You guys
used the vacation.
all took vacation days today?
Yeah,
Yes.
man. Of course.
Wow.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
All
Once in a
right.
lifetime chance.
Well, there are many lifetimes then because you can come by anytime you want.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You really can. And soon we'll be able to accommodate anybody that wants to come by and sit in on the live stream. But we're not really doing that often these days because we have to change the whole lighting and audio setup, which was one of the reasons why we're a little bit late today. All right, let's keep moving on. Well, I'm glad to have you guys here. And I'm going to jump to Twitter now. and there was an opportunity for people to submit questions via Twitter, and they were using the hashtag, I think, Motion AMA.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay, thanks, Matthew. Keep me honest. This one is from Diego, and he's at Diego Chavez, or Chavez. How do you handle dry spells and work overload as a freelance motion designer? How do you handle dry spells and work overload? So he's going in between the two ends, right, where there's nothing to do and too much to do. It's called the feast and famine kind of thing. When it rains, it pours, and you're flooded and you don't know what to do. And this is the nature of the beast when it comes to freelancing. Potentially, the reason why it comes in all at once is because the network, the pool of people who hire you is very small, and it would be good to kind of broaden that out a little bit so that they go in season. So if it's in one vertical, one industry, and they're busy, everybody's busy at the same time. Like if you work in advertising, it used to be that way, less so these days. But maybe if you did some corporate work, maybe for an auto show, trade show graphics or things like that, then they have a different season, and to get those to kind of spread out. But here's the good news. If you're a freelancer, I need you guys to pay attention right now. You're a freelancer. If you're getting too much work and it feels overwhelming, that is actually a really good thing. This is why I don't like the term freelancer. You're really an independent business owner, and if you were able to bring in somebody else, somebody who had, 80% of your skill level, you could do 180% of the work that you're currently doing. And this is how you begin to grow and build a company organically. So if you have too much work coming in, instead of stressing out over it, instead of saying no, bring on somebody to help you. Art direct them, creative direct them, and get the work to be at a similar level at which you would normally work at. So in the old days, when we were working, people would come in and they would do the work, and it would be about 70-80% of the work that I could do. I would swoop in at the last minute, open up their files, tighten things up, and then ship them off to the client, giving it my stamp of approval. The clients were none the wiser. It was because this was the kind of work I could do. Now, that seemed to fulfill most of the project requirements, and it's how we grew our company. And so that's how I would do it, you guys. Any other thoughts on this?
There was a question on here, well, how do you refill that pool? And I actually just came back from the Philippines speaking there at a conference, and one of the speakers, he was from a motion studio called Acid House, and they had a dry spell at the beginning of this year, about 2 months, where they were doing zero work. In that period, the owner, Ivan, he spent the time just learning new programs, which was Octane at that time. He made a bunch of cool renders and started posting them on Instagram. So he got really busy on social. He was just doing some inbound marketing. Eventually, Adobe caught wind of it, and he's doing one of the start screens for one of the programs now. Awesome. Just because he had downtime, but he really utilized that time to hone and develop skills that he didn't have before. So that's how you refill the pool if it ever gets dry. You work on yourself and give yourself more tools that are marketable and valuable to people hiring out there.
Yeah, I think, like, for me personally, I have a to-do list for every single day, and it's always 3 times as long as it should be, because I know I'm not going to be able to get through it. And when I do have those little moments of free time, I'll have something to do, or a list of things to do. So I would say, stay busy, always have plans, think 6 months ahead about that stuff.
Good job. Great advice, guys. Next question. Here we go. Buckle up. This is from Pixel and Bracket. As a creative, I represent myself under a fictional name. Well, hence Pixel and Bracket. I publish content, build a portfolio, freelance, etc. This grows in both attention and revenue. At what point is this a real business, and how do I secure ownership in this intellectual property? What do you guys think? As a creative, he's working under a fictional name, not as his own name. And as it's growing, it feels like it's a real business. How does he secure ownership in this intellectual property, this fictitious name, Pixel and Bracket? This is a legal question, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. That's pretty technical. I'm not quite sure how to answer that.
Okay. The short answer, I would say, is call my attorney or call your attorney. Pay them money, since you're doing well, and formalize this. But generally speaking, you should have registered your name as a trademark already in the United States and abroad. I would pick English-speaking countries to register first, because it can get expensive to register worldwide. And the reason why I say this is because there's a wanker company in the UK that decided to call themselves blind and do motion design work. and it's infuriating. Of all the names in the universe, you already have to pick one that's been in existence way before you ever started, and you're doing the same thing? Doesn't make any sense to me. So we have to kind of then defend our trademark in the US, but we didn't register in the UK, so I guess they get to use it. So those are some pieces of advice. Now, what you want to do is to do interstate or international business that you can prove to establish your brand. So if you're Pixel and Bracket, try to work with a client that's out of state. And what I would do is I would send them a package, even though these days everything is done through email or electronic file, cloud sharing, that kind of stuff. What I would do is send them an invoice or a disc or something just in the mail, USB jump drive, so that you can have a proof, like a proof of record, send it via certified mail that you're doing interstate commerce, and that helps establish you as a national brand and not a regional brand. But these are things that my attorney told me. I should not be offering legal advice, you guys. I don't even play one on TV, so that's the best of my knowledge there. Okay, you want to establish your brand, enter it into competitions, get it published in magazines, get it posted in blogs, so that the more people can say that, yes, we are aware that you're a company and now we're going to choose to violate your trademark. And that's what you do. After you go beyond the trademark phase, you can have it be registered. That's where you get the circle R from. But that costs even more money. And you can do that as well. And that is to strengthen your brand. Now, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me a lot of money. Well, it does cost money to do it the legal way. And if you're making money and you're worried about the intellectual property of your name, Pixel and Bracket, then go defend it. Go register it. And then go call an attorney. I'm going to move on because I don't think there are any other attorneys in-house. Hearing none, I'm moving on.
Are you not?
Yeah?
No.
All right. Here we go. This is from Nixon at Zinsei. I don't know how to say that. How do you build an estimation for a project? How do you handle audio? What are the differences between Mograph and entertainment? For example, blind versus titmouse. If video is becoming the standard, why is Mograph on the decline? There's about 17 questions in here.
Using all the new characters for Twitter, man.
Pretty much. How is it somebody can get so many questions in on one tweet? That's remarkable. There's a skill there. I say we just pick the one that we want to answer. How do you handle audio? Very carefully and legally. Okay. How do you build an estimate for a project? Watch the video on how to build an estimate with Frank Shee. It's available. You should watch it. We talk about that. And in the near future, we'll probably be producing more content on how to build an estimate. In fact, actually, I'm going to be speaking again at NAB this year at Post-Production World in April. I'm going to be giving a class on how to build estimates and how to overcome pricing objections. So until that's ready, watch our other videos maybe, because that's a really big question. Luckily, we already have one video to address it, if not more. Maybe this is one we take on. If video is becoming the standard, why is Mograph on the decline?
Is it?
I say so.
I think it's dispersing. I think it's on a decline as we've known it for the past 15, 20 years.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of misleading to say it's on a decline, but it's just the industry as we knew it before has changed drastically.
Well, let's talk about how it's changed. Maybe this will be the meatiest question we have yet to answer. How have you guys seen it change? And I do want to say this. There's a caveat here because people got angry at me on this one. You guys have to realize we're on the west side in Santa Monica, and we're working and competing against 20 of probably the most well-known motion design, well-established, and the most highly regarded motion design studios here. And we're competing for advertising work, mostly TV spot work. And it's a dog-eat-dog world out here. And we've seen a lot of changes. We've been in this business for over 2 decades, longer than many of you guys have been alive. So we've seen changes and trends appear. The reason why I had to say that is because some people are freelancing around there. Like, no, motion graphics is on the rise. I'm getting booked all over the place. As a single person, it's a totally different beast. We're speaking from the lens of a business on the west side doing TV spot work. So now that you guys have that caveat, let's dive into it a little bit deeper. What have you seen, Greg and Matthew? What have you seen?
I haven't seen a TV spot project in a very long time.
What do you mean? Like you don't watch TV anymore, or
No,
you personally working on one?
Me personally working on one. Like I'm trying to think about how many I did this year.
How many have you done this year?
Maybe one, maybe.
What are we paying you to do?
No, there's I think, as Matthew said, decline is maybe the wrong choice of word. I think there's still plenty of work out there that uses motion in it. It is not a 30-second TV spot and something that we've been accustomed to for the last 2 decades, as you said.
I know how we can have a more intelligent discussion about this. What metrics are we using to come to the conclusion, especially me, maybe not Matthew and Greg, to say that it's on the decline? We can look at A, how many jobs have we bid on? How many motion design studios are there around still? And how many of them have gone out of business? What has the budget been like? Has it been on the rise or the decline? So we're looking at frequency and we're looking at budget. And we're also looking at agencies and motion design studios as a litmus test of how healthy the industry is. So if we look at those metrics, how would you guys respond?
It's in a decline.
Decline.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So why don't you articulate what is in decline then?
Budgets, absolutely.
You're seeing them go from what to what?
Big to less big.
Big into small?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few that break the 100K mark. I think like that's a big deal when we see one now. It's like, oh, okay.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So when you started, what kind of budgets were you seeing, Greg?
Okay, so when that question was being read, it made me think of this one job I pitched on. This is before I came to Blind. It was a 30-second spot. It was animation, but it was very, very minimal animation. Like, we could have done this in a week. And I think the budget was like $450,000, or it was something ridiculous. Even at the time, we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I think that actually messed with our heads. We didn't win the job. But
you got messed up in the head on that.
Yeah. Those were the types of budgets that we used to see.
How many years ago was that? What year was that? Do you remember?
I think that was either 2008 or 2009.
Okay, so that is 8 years ago.
Yeah, 8, 9 years
So about
ago.
8 years ago, when Greg was still a young buck, when he was a young gun, as they say, as long as that one fan of yours is still around, it's that young gun. He and his fellow friends, classmates, were looking at budgets north of $400,000, and they were essentially kind of new graduates looking at this kind of work.
Yeah.
Fast forward. Now he's the big gun. He's not so much a young gun. And now we're saying, gosh, I don't remember the last time I did a commercial TV project anymore. And maybe I've done one TV spot this year, and the budget seemed to be south of $100,000. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's in decline. Now, you could say, well, Blind sucks. Blind's on the way out. That's cool. Just call some other people and ask them. This is just our opinion. I can't share with you the opinions of other people because I just don't know them.
I think the way the industry is working a little bit is kind of sort of changing as well, though, and it's not so much. I mean, there is, I guess, probably a little bit of a decline, but at the same time, you said we're not going to get into software and things like that. But the way you can enter into this industry there's been a democratization of it, and so in the past, where if you're a freelancer or you're working for a studio and you have to go to those companies and be hired by those companies in order to use their equipment. But these days, with things like Cinema 4D or Octane, you have all these people who are one-man bands that can kind of bid on the same types of projects and compete with them, but they're still thinking of themselves as a freelancer of one person working on it, or a group of people, or whatever it is, but not so much a giant company bidding with all of the bigger company overhead and things like that going into it. So of course, a lot of clients might be looking to those one-man bands or smaller groups and the work going to them.
Yes. So you're saying these solo operations are eating us from the bottom up. They're just destroying the industry because, all right.
I don't know if they're destroying the industry, but they could be affecting it.
If we're the industry, then I would say yes, you are destroying us, Grant. But that's okay. It's your right and your prerogative to pursue the work that you can get for the price that you can get it for. And it's our prerogative to say, no, we will try to hold the line up here as you guys come up. Hopefully that's the case. But here's the basic business concept. There's issues of supply and demand. When I started out in 1995, supply was like this big and demand was like that big. So everybody getting in was having plenty of opportunities. You can lose 10 jobs in a row and there's another one around the corner for you to go and get. And it's cool. And when you actually landed one, it was a giant job, so you can feast on that for a long time. What has happened? I don't think it's an issue of software or hardware at all, because I wasn't working on exclusive hardware. I wasn't working on an SGI box that was like $40,000. I was using your run-of-the-mill Mac Apple Mac 2CI. Go look it up, guys. Look it up. All right? And it had a whopping 300 megabyte hard drive. This is what I was working with. That has nothing to do with it at all, Grant. I think the real driver of this is when something is hot, when something is cool and fresh, what happens? Everybody gets in on it. So we were at the early adopter phase, or maybe the innovator phase, if you look at the cycles of adoption, right? When something gets past the tipping point. So we're at the innovation stage, and so we're in it early. You could fart and make money. You could be a hack like myself and still be considered good and learn and level up. So what happens? Schools start saying, well, our students think this is hot. This is kind of a cool thing, and they're job opportunities. And we want to do the best that we can to help our students get work. That makes a lot of sense. So they start changing the curriculum. They start bringing on people like myself, working professionals, to teach what it is that we do. And soon, not before long, what happens is the supply becomes much, much bigger. And the demand stayed the same, or did it? The demand actually got smaller while this got bigger. Demand got smaller because, as Matthew was saying, it's being dispersed. TV advertising was the penultimate expression of a marketing campaign. It was expensive to make, it was expensive to air, and that's why it cost so much money to do this thing. Okay, get it. Now you have micro content, you have explainer videos, you have corporate videos, you have launch videos, you have Kickstarter videos, you have all these kinds of things, and social media campaigns. And so TV it's just one little part, and all of it's getting scattered. Same budgets, parsed out a million different ways. And so what is that doing? That also means that ad agencies have to learn how to produce work for less money too. Because the days of them sending it out a house and then doing a little markup on it and everybody being happy, those days seem to be gone. They have a very hungry client that has a lot of marketing needs, and they have to fulfill that. They have to feed that. In order to do so, they have to chop up the parts, and they bring people in-house. So we've seen a trend that's been going on for like 6-7 years now, where ad agencies are building pretty ginormous motion design studios in-house. Meanwhile, the schools continue to crank out more and more students. And if this graph were accurate, most of the screen would be filled with students, and few of them would be filled with opportunities, the ones we're talking about. But there is opportunity for you if you want to go in-house, if you want to be a solopreneur, if you want to be a freelancer, and to work on smaller budget projects without it ever being seen on TV. That's the problem. And that's why the motion industry, if you're doing commercial work on the West Coast in a big market, is on the decline. And you can call my reps and ask them if it's on the decline or not, and they'll tell you. Should we move on?
Yeah.
I think we should move on. Are there more questions from the internet? Facebook? YouTube? Twitter? Anything, guys?
No, not really. A lot of people are just having side conversations about this.
What's this?
What we're discussing right now.
Oh, they don't like it, or?
No. Nothing. They're just discussing amongst themselves. There's nothing negative or positive here. It's just side conversation that I don't think it's really adding much color.
I have one from Facebook. We could try.
Fire away.
And this is from, I apologize for butchering your name, Paulino. I'm gonna call you Paulino.
Paulino's good.
Yes. Paulino asked, if motion graphics are on the decline, then how should I diversify my skills to ensure that I continue to be able to obtain work?
So it's on the decline. How do you diversify to obtain work? Well, if you're looking for a work opportunity, there's still many work opportunities, and that's why I think a lot of people who are on the other side of the fence, like, no, it's great. I have more opportunities. I'm making more money as a full-time freelancer, and my day rate's going up every single day. I think you just need to learn to plug yourself into one of those entities. You can work for broadcast TV. You can probably work for one of these new streaming services that are out. When I say new, I mean places like Netflix and Hulu. They're producing graphics. Or perhaps you go in-house to a news network because they have a constant need for new graphics and new motion design. Things like Fox News, CNN, Bloomberg, what are these? CNET, I already said CNN, MSNBC. All those networks need a constant update of graphics, especially every election cycle. Is that work sexy? No. It might be, I don't know. And there are promos that need to be made in-house all the time, toolkits for broadcast packages and things like that, and that would be done in-house. And you could do that. Those are opportunities. You can go in-house at an ad agency, but as we've heard, many people want to get out of the ad agency because they want to be more creative. And therein lies the problem. It's the problem. So,
Grass is always greener type of thing too.
well, grass is greener, but there are opportunities. It's just not the ones that you dreamt about, that you heard about, the ones that you read about in a magazine or a blog post, because those opportunities seem to be going away with the dinosaur. They really are. There's a handful of companies that do really excellent main title designs, but from what I understand, those projects aren't even profitable. They're vanity projects. When I say vanity projects, it means because it looks good for the reel and they can talk about it, and it's a way for them to do kind of soft marketing. You do a really cool project and you could do that. Even music videos have gone. The budgets for music videos is paltry now compared to what it once was. Very problematic. I don't know. I think I answered the question, but I'm not sure. I'll take
why don't we-
silence as yes.
Yeah, why don't we go to our guests in the other room? Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, good
We
idea,
have a
Matthew.
live audience here right
Excellent.
now. Chris is here. What do you guys have questions about?
I don't know. I don't have really much. I feel like I had one question, but you already answered it.
That's how good we are, man.
Yeah, you,
how we do
man,
that.
reading minds.
That's what we do.
Um,
I should do a fortune-telling business.
Well,
Come,
what
come
do
into the parlor.
What do the chats say? Are they in general agreeing or disagreeing with the whole decline of motion graphics and things like that from where they stand?
Oh, it's a lot of agreeing, saying, yeah, video projects are coming up. There's smaller budgets, more opportunities for smaller either individuals or groups. But there was one question that popped up right now from Chad Diaz. So it's like, so Chris, what are young designers to do? If that's the state of things, what are young designers to do?
Young designers, if you're not in school yet, if not in college, here's what I would recommend. Rather than going to college, what I would try to think about is, could you ever pay off the debt that you accrue while going to school? So if you're going to go to community college, state school, or something like that you can afford, and you can get a quality education, I would focus less on the arts and more on the liberal arts, the humanities, philosophy, literature, things like that. Maybe rhetoric, public speaking, debate, and then learn the emotion stuff, the stuff that is now so expertly taught on so many platforms, and to spend your money wisely. And to take your career or your education in your own hands. Do not trust that the administrators know what the heck they're doing. Chances are none of the administrators ever worked in the motion industry or the one that you want to get into anyways. So I'd kind of be very careful about that. Okay? They're going to send you through a pipeline, and on the opposite side, you're going to merge as a piece of sausage that nobody wants to eat, and that's a problem. That's a horrible metaphor, but that's what came to my mind right now. So try to minimize how much money you spend on acquiring the skills necessary to get an opportunity. What does an opportunity sound like? An opportunity to me sounds like an internship, either paid or unpaid, it doesn't matter, because wherever you go, they're going to teach you more than you could possibly learn in school. They're going to teach you about professional practices. They're going to teach you about methodologies, techniques, skills. You're going to rub elbows next to people that you're going to be wind up working with that will refer you for other work in the future. And I think that's really, really important. So you just need to get your foot in the door somewhere. So look at the skills that they have. And I've said this before, and it doesn't matter what industry you're trying to get into. It's all the same. Very simple formula. 1, look at the work that you admire, the companies that you want to work for. 2, look at your work and have an honest assessment as to what your work looks like. 3, close the gap. That's it. And they're not going to come to you, so they're not going to do crappier work, so you need to do better work. So look at the work, deconstruct it, study it. What makes it what it is? Is it the color palette? Is it the composition? Is it their use of 3D particles? What is it? Is it the sense that the camera has a floating kind of motion to it? Is it the way they handle curves? Matthew likes to talk about the curves all the time. He's all about the curves. So make sure the curves are nice. Whatever that is, copy it, emulate it, and you'll get an opportunity, I promise you. And if you don't, it's because you haven't copied it faithfully. That's the problem. The problem also, you guys, is you realize this, is if you've ever had to draw 100 hands and copy master drawings, it is really boring and really tedious. I sit my son down all the time and say, hey, this is how we learn to draw. I want you to copy these. What do you mean copy? I mean, put a piece of tracing paper over it and copy it. And then when you get comfortable enough, just look at it and draw it as you do it. But do your best to make it exactly the same. He'll start off 1-2 drawings, then he's bored and he wants to go draw his own monsters and spaceships. And they're good drawings for a little kid, but they're not nearly as good as the drawings he was trying to look at. It's because it's boring to do that kind of work. It's boring to paint a fence and wax the car, wax on, wax off. But that's how you build skills. That's it. Everybody wants a shortcut. I don't have a shortcut plan for you.
Yeah, and I think to that point, because I saw there was a question here, or not a question, but more of a statement. It's like, oh, my administration, my institution failed me. And I think that's the wrong attitude. If you're looking to go to school and for them to solve all your problems, that's a mistake. Because you just get lucky. You get lucky if you have the right instructors, if you're lined up with the right people that are teaching you the right skills that are profitable as soon as you graduate. More often than not, that will not be the situation. So if you need to close that gap between a portfolio that you admire and your own portfolio, you just need to do it yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to care. You can cry more about it later, but really no one's going to care. You have to pick up the pieces and do that yourself. So I think that's really important, that you can't just expect to go through 4 years of college and then get a job on the other end. You're a huge driver of that. That only supports you on your way there.
Yeah. So there's a little chatter here, guys, going on in YouTube about the Mograph industry is popping, yo. This is from Sid saying, look at motionographer. There's so many job postings every single day. Well, apply for them. Go for it. Like I said, if you're working on the other side of this equation, if you're not trying to start a motion design studio, if you're not trying to work on the West or the East Coast working for ad agencies and doing TV spots, well, great. I think there's plenty of opportunity. But the first half of the episode seemed to focus on everybody that was doing that and hated it. They wanted to do something more creative. They wanted to work with like-minded individuals. I'm just telling you right now, from our perspective, from our experience, our timeline, that does not seem to be the case. You can get motion design work. You can go out there and be a compositing artist, a color correction artist, rotoscope person. You could do any of those things. There's, I think, lots of those opportunities. You're going to go in, you're going to do the work, and you're going to go home. That's it. Not a big deal. You'll make good money. Live the American dream, right? Maybe. I don't know. What do I know? I'm old. Okay. All right. So there's a question here. Where's it? Where's that dude? I lost him. Chad Diaz. Chris, I'm old. I'm trying to help out the young ones. Help me help them. Screw the young ones. You save yourself. The young ones are nimble. They can still move back home. It's kind of embarrassing when you're old and you want to move back home. Take care of yourself, brother. I'm being totally flipped, guys. There's a legitimate response, but that's not a complete question, so I don't know. Help me help them. How? Put money in your pocket, you put it in theirs? I don't know. Is this trickle-down economics? I have no idea. All right, who else here? Finance your education. You guys pull out something good.
Okay, I got one from Facebook. This goes back to the supply and demand portion. So Isaac asked, do you guys see a future opportunity with virtual reality and motion graphics? And is there an opportunity there to be an early adopter or an innovator?
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for me to drop this one? I'm ready. Let me loosen up. I need to get a little more limber for this one. Here's the thing. Every few years, some new hot new newness is going to come out, the new black, the new orange, whatever it is. It's going to come out, and everybody that doesn't have enough skills says, that's it. This nirvana there, that's where the mana is. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get that stuff because I just can't compete in the regular market. And the thing is, every once in a while, those things work out. But to me, that's a gamble. It's a gamble. I would like for you to say, I'm going to work on my foundational skills. I want to make sure I understand how to do the curves correctly. I want to animate on solid design principles because those things never go out of style. It doesn't matter if it's 2D or 3D. They don't go out of style. Just do really solid animation. And when the market matures and there looks like there's a real opportunity, go on in. You can still be an early adopter. You don't have to be an innovator. What I've seen, and I'm going to tell a cautionary tale right now. Cautionary tale, you guys. Gather around the campfire, guys. Get a little closer to the screen. Here we go. Many years ago, DreamWorks launched with Geffen, Spielberg, and who's the other partner?
I don't know.
Animation guy. The guy who runs DreamWorks now, animation. I forget his name. Forget about it. He's now the Katzenberg. Geffen, Katzenberg, and Spielberg launched DreamWorks Studio. And it was like the last time a major studio launched. It was a big deal. And they were looking for space. And they had found a site in Marina del Rey, Mar Vista. And they found a site. And so all these post-production companies, these support companies, thought, great, we need to uproot and move to Mar Vista, Marina del Rey. We need to be near them because there's going to be a lot of action here. One such company, I won't name them right now, but they were really popular. One of the hottest broadcast design studios in Hollywood. They'd been there for a long time. They did commercial work, they did broadcast design work, and they were jumping. So they decided to move their offices from Hollywood to Mar Vista Marina del Rey. And I think there was some controversy in that area about the wetlands being protected and maybe some methane gas coming out. Whatever happened. DreamWorks did not move there. And so they're the one studio kind of in an empty large lot. Years later, they went out of business. That's my cautionary tale for you. Now, that seems like a poor real estate decision, but it's really about seeing opportunities and gambling the farm, betting it all that this is going to happen. And I think, and this is me just armchair quarterbacking this whole thing, saying that maybe they weren't as confident. Maybe they thought their time in the sun was going to be over. Eventually it is, and made a decision, a big gamble, to bet the entire operation on that. And it's really sad because there were a lot of really super duper talented people who worked there. They all wound up starting other firms after this thing disbanded, but that's what happened to them. So I look at 3D stereoscopic, how everybody's talking about this is it. It's going to be real this time, guys. This is it. We're all rushed out to buy 3D TVs and 3D Blu-rays and the whole bit. Look what happened there. Virtual reality is a new newness, and everybody's getting into that too. And the few people who are at the right place at the right time and have the right opportunity, it'll work out for them. But if that whole thing doesn't work out, they're all screwed. They're all screwed. So I don't like chasing those kinds of new tech, new things, because it looks like a gamble to me. And we shall cut to that slide until you guys come up with a better question. What else we got?
There's some questions popping up here for where to learn motion design. I think we reiterated some of those things earlier, right? School of Motion, Learn Squared, Grayscale Gorilla, Video Copilot. So I think those are still all the best resources to find free and paid resources. There's one question here is like, where do you learn advanced storyboarding and sequencing design? Because I don't feel like there's a strong course out there that teaches that specifically. Chris, I know you're starting to do stuff here on the channel specifically for narrative sequencing, and I'm doing some stuff specifically for creating style frames right now. So we're warming up to that on this channel, but I can't recommend anything out there that specifically teaches sequential design in a strong way, unless Greg, you have some thoughts, maybe in the animation industry.
Yeah, there might be something, but it starts to feel more like a traditional storyboarding class, which I think that's the gap. That's what we're working on, and we need to figure out is how to bridge storyboarding traditionally, as you think about it, with staging characters, but with design aesthetic, right? I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of any that really satisfy that criteria.
Right. So I'm going to say something here. I'm going to be both a hypocrite and a capitalist when I say this. The hypocrite is, you guys, listen in. The motion design industry for top tier advertising work is on decline. Yet let me teach us class on storyboarding and style frames launching in 2018. Yes, there is a lack of this kind of knowledge. Every time we see that there's a gap in the marketplace for what we do, we try and fill that. So right now we're tackling all the logo stuff. We're getting that out of our system. But for many, many years, almost 15 years, I taught sequential design at Art Center. I'm going to do some version of that on our program here. So if you really, really insist, you're, Chris, please take my money. Okay, fine, give me your money, and I will teach you this thing. And you'll get better at it, for sure. I do want to address something from Jeremy Alexander. He said, Chris has got 3 different styles going on today. That is correct, you guys. My wife questioned my attire today, so I'm going to walk you through the entire wardrobe. I'm wearing a red gingham print shirt, which she hates the color of, with a cool kind of red tie in the spirit of the holidays and all. And I'm wearing this kind of hunter Patagonia down jacket because it's cold outside with a, what is this, Uniqlo rain jacket on top with my camo duck hunter orange thing matching the inside collar. I call this urban East Coast prep. There you go. Let's move on from that.
There is a question from Awilab, and he's like, can you speak on the importance of understanding the relationship between designers and producers? So I'd like him to dig a little bit deeper and just ask a more specific question, like what do you want to know between the relationship between the two? Because I think on the surface, the way it should work is the designers and animators are making the work, while the producer is keeping everything organized, bouncing back and forth, communication between client, creative director, and making sure that gets to the team, making sure that both sides have the assets that they need from each other. So that's the producer is the main kind of conduit between both sides there on management and client to the artists themselves. But if there's a more specific question, go ahead and ask, and then we could maybe clarify some of those things.
That's right. I see some strange question here. What are your thoughts on non-disclosure agreements? My thoughts are, if you sign it, you better obey it. That's pretty much it. That's what that means. It means zip your pie hole. Don't tell anybody because you get sued. And if you breach that, I think you'll forever be blacklisted in every industry you walk into, because you'll be known as, that's that person who leaked the thing that cost us the entire reputation of our company and our job, and we're getting sued now. Thank you very much. You will never work anywhere again. Respect the non-disclosure agreement. If you sign that, that means you cannot talk about the project. And most likely, they'll say, in order to talk about this project, you must seek in writing approval before you mention a single thing. Now, this is an issue. This is an issue we take very, very seriously here, because clients come to us with some of their most safeguarded secrets. And they say, before the public even knows what the heck we're doing, and we can't let the market know we're working on this new piece of hardware, because if they find out, they're not going to pay for the product that's out on the market right now. We're going to have a real inventory problem. Or these are new specs and we can't let our competition know because they're going to counter what we do. So we all sign on disclosure agreements, everybody that works in the company. We wall off certain parts of our offices and segregate everybody, and we work on the projects. We go by code names and everything. Matthew's not called Matthew anymore. He's called Sir John. And we just go with that. And we produce a project and we deliver it. And so thus far, we've not breached any contract, non-disclosure agreement contract we've ever signed. If you guys are thinking about toying around with the law, my advice for you is don't. Okay, I'm going to jump into the Future Pro group. 200 people in the Future Pro group. Some of them are motion designers, so I want to address that right now. This is coming from Mark, your friend Mark, Matthew. He sent me these questions ahead of time. So
Great.
Here we go. Technical skills versus project management skills versus people skills, meaning easy to work with. Which is more valuable? Short answer, Matthew and Greg?
All of them.
I would prioritize people skills.
The people that are easy to work with?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the job, but I think you can be amazing, but if I don't like you and you can't get along with the team, you're probably not going to work with me.
Okay. I have a follow-up question for you, Greg.
Yeah.
What are some of the weird things that freelancers do that you're like, ugh, I don't want to work with you anymore? This is your last booking.
I've been really fortunate. The couple examples I can think of are that they lied about their ability or were overly confident or something. And I'm not sure why, but I do recall a situation where we were looking for someone to animate a camera. And this person came in and we're like, okay, here's the direction for the scene. Let us know when you have something to review. And end of the day, we kind of checked in. We're like, what's going on, buddy? And I don't know how, but they put like bones into a camera, and like it was just really weird. Clearly, this person did not know how to do this, and that's okay. But don't tell me that you do know how to do it, because then it's a waste of both of our times, and we have to have this awkward conversation where it's like, thanks, but you got to go. So just I think being honest and upfront about what you're comfortable doing goes a long way. I'm not going to lose any respect for you because of that.
Okay. You guys have heard this 1,000 times. Relationships are about communication. What Greg was talking about is you lied. That's poor communication. Or if you work at a studio and you can't do something and you clearly do not know how to do it, and you just nod when you get the brief like, yeah, I got this. And then a day, 2 days, 3 days later, you come back and like, oh, you don't got this. This is really bad. It would have been much better for you to say, Greg, I'm concerned. I have skills. This seems to be a little bit out of my range. Do you think you can sit down and talk to me about the best approach? Because I'm not sure I'm the right guy to do this. And if you feel like I can't do this, no problem. You can cancel my booking. You need to bring in somebody that's right for the project. I don't want to leave you in a lurch. Would you respect that person more, Greg?
Absolutely. I really wish that would have been the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add to that. Actually, I had an experience recently that I just thought of that was great. it was last year I was working on this project, and I had seen this guy's reel. He had a generalist reel, 3D generalist, so he kind of does a little bit of everything. I didn't quite know what his strengths were, but I hired him anyway just because his reel was awesome. He worked on the project. He was struggling to get through blocking out a shot and then working on the animation details. And eventually his booking ended. His work wasn't complete, but what he did at the very end of that project, he said, hey, do you mind spending 15 minutes with me for a self-evaluation? I want to chat with you about the things I was great at and the things I was not great at. So at that point I said, oh wow, that's very refreshing. I've never had a freelancer ask me that. So we sat down in the conference room for 15 minutes and he said, hey man, I just wanted to say, thank you so much for bringing me on board for this project. I know I struggled in these areas, camera blocking and the animation. You know what? That's not really my thing. My real strengths are here, like lighting and texturing and rendering. And I know I didn't quite hit the mark there. So maybe I should have been a little bit more upfront, but I didn't quite know what I was getting into. So for me, that was like, oh, wow, I would totally hire you again for those things, the things that you're actually specialized in. And that was my fault for not communicating right away or very clearly what my expectations were for you to be on this project. So I really loved that. And I would hope that more freelancers would request those types of things where it's like, okay, hey, I've been working with you guys for a while, or I've been working with you on this project. Since I'm exiting, I'd love to get an evaluation so that either the next time we work or the next time I work with somebody else, I am adding more value to that organization. So no one's ever done it except this one guy, and it was awesome. And I would definitely hire him again.
Yeah. You know what that's called? That's called maturity
Yeah.
and professionalism.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Two things that people in our industry lack: maturity and professionalism. I always say that that's happened to me more than one time, Matthew, but it's not been more than what I can count on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
The true professionals come in after they're done with their booking. They thank you for the opportunity. They express true appreciation, and they ask you areas for improvement, and they mean it sincerely. They're not just saying that for lip service, and that's really important. We got more questions come up with or to answer, and then I got a bunch of crazy questions like lightning round that we'll just fire through as fast as possible. I'll give very short and curt answers, and you guys won't like it, but those are the answers. That way we can get through as many people as possible. Okay, here's the next question. How do I compete with larger agencies? How can I win more animation jobs? Whoa. That's what everybody wants to know. So Mark is coming in with some really good questions. How do I compete with larger agencies? How can I win more jobs? Greg, take it away.
Right. Okay, so two questions there, and two, I think, very different questions. How do I win more jobs? How do I compete with large? Okay. I don't even know.
They're kind of related. I have the answer. I was just messing around with you. Ready?
Oh, okay, great. Go ahead, Chris.
Matthew, you want to jump in on the fire?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you're competing with a larger agency, you just have to prove to the client why you're better than that agency. They're bloated. They maybe can't move as fast. And you have the agility and flexibility that a giant company doesn't have. So you just have to think about the objections in their head and think about your own strengths and frame that in a way that looks attractive to a client. That's how you position yourself against a larger agency.
Okay. This is called guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare. Not gorilla like the ape, but guerrilla, G-U-E-R. Guerrilla warfare. You have to make your weaknesses seem like your strengths. This is how you beat a larger, more formidable enemy or an opponent. So everything that you are kind of sheepish to talk about, the fact that you're the owner-operator, the fact that you're two people, the fact that you're doing everything from delivering the packages and making sandwiches and doing the compositing and the finished work, you feel like that is a weakness. What you need to do is you need to think about how this is an advantage to your client, not to yourself, but to your client, and you need to make a compelling case for that. This is where you have to lean in on your strengths, because you cannot beat the enemy that's bigger, stronger, faster, and they have much more horsepower and firepower than you to try to compete them on that front. You guys remember how America became America and how we beat the British? We cheated. Back in the days, there were rules governing warfare. British soldiers would line up in formation, and they would have superior firepower and superior troops. And if you were to get in that same line, they were like, it's like a gentleman's agreement. Everybody fires and people die. Since they have more people, they would just win. So what did Americans do? they hid in the forest. It's called guerrilla warfare. So the British troops are kind of like, we don't know what to do now. We advance and they just shoot from behind trees. We're seen as cowards, whatever. But you know the rest of how that turned out. So you cannot go head to head with a company that's got 7 more people in the animation part than you have in the whole company. When I say 7, it's probably more like 70. You have to think about what makes you unique and special, and you have to approach it very differently. And that's a very individual question, and that's a tough one just for us to be saying in a broad blanket statement. But really, you have to kind of make your weaknesses appear to be strengths for your client. So when you're small, the advantage there is that you're going to give the clients a lot of personal attention. And you can say, and we've said this before, when I take on a project, you have all of me, and I'm only dedicated to just one project. I don't have the bandwidth to take on more than one client at a time. So I'm not going to be busy chasing other jobs. I'm not going to be busy putting out fires for other jobs. I'm not going to be busy managing a team that has no relevancy to you. You get all of me. Here's my phone number. Call me day or night, any time of the day, 24/7. I'm here for you. Do you think the other company is saying that? Okay, I'm moving on since you guys didn't respond. And I guess you guys can't respond, so that's how this works. Here we go. How do I work remotely with motion design studios like yours? Okay, so this is a freelancer. This is not an independent business owner. How does he work with a motion design firm like ours remotely? How does he work remotely with us? Very simple. You come in, you do the job with us, and you do a great job. Over time, you build up trust, and you say, I think I can be more productive working at home. The commute is killing me. Is it possible for us to do remote work? I promise you, you'll see no difference. Anything that you think is a problem or anything that you have to spend more time and money on, I will compensate you for, or I will fix myself. Make it so it's impossible to say no to you.
Yeah.
Now, if it's your first relationship, like some of you saying, oh, you know, I live in Oklahoma. I'm like at the bottom of the barrel of the motion design industry here. There are no opportunities. Then maybe traveling to some city is totally out of reach. The way you can combat that is you do such amazing work, that they can't help but call you. And when they find out you're in Oklahoma, you say, I'm in Oklahoma, but I work with clients remotely all the time. Here's the systems that I set up. This is what I do. Since you're at this time, I will wake up to match your timeline. I'll set up a Trello board. We'll do a Dropbox. I will be on the same page as your team. If you have stand-up meetings every morning, I will be there for that. I'll call in via Skype or Zoom or one of those video conferencing things. Make it a no-brainer. Make it so it's very hard for people to say no to you. And then get going. Now, the tendency here is that the reason why people are reluctant to work with people off-site is because we believe you're working on multiple jobs. And that could be true. We believe that you're sitting around in your shorts watching cartoons all day and then you do a little bit of the work and we're getting 1/4 of the output that we're paying for. Make sure that's not the case. And this is where perception is reality. So people perceive you to be doing something that's not true. You have to combat it. You have to kind of go above and beyond to prove it to them that you're not. So when they send you something, be super responsive, be available, and just really super focus up on the work. Make it a non-issue. Okay. This is the last scripted question, not scripted, but the question I have had scraped from all our different social media feeds, and then we'll go to kind of live chat kind of things. Here we go. Last one. How to make different careers in motion. Someone who's style frame versus animator versus compositor. This is like not the most well-constructed question, but what they're asking is it possible for me in the motion design industry to have a career just doing style frames or just being an animator or a compositor, and how do I go about that? Greg and Matthew, I think you guys are perfectly suited to answer this question. To you guys.
Yeah, just specialize and then put that on your website. I'm a 3D character animator for films and television. I'm a compositor that uses Nuke and After Effects. I'm a style frame designer for motion TV, for motion projects. It's like you just be very clear in your portfolio, and your portfolio should reflect that. A lot of the people that I've hired over the years that I haven't had a word of mouth recommendation from, I just look at their website, and if their website's super clear, if I see the things that I need and it fills the bucket that I'm trying to fill here on my job, it's really easy to put them in. So at least for our experience here, there's a lot of work in these types of silos where you're just a specialist in one of these things. You could totally just be a specialist in one. What I found, though, is with a lot of these specialists, even though they're amazing at compositing or amazing at 3D character animation, they have all these secondary and tertiary skills that end up helping on the project. So for instance, let's say if I bring in a specialist who just does texturing and lighting, that's his specialist. I usually bring a lot of these Maya guys in. And what happens is on the job is like, well, I need a little bit of generalist skills. I need somebody to block out a couple shots for me and to do some simple animation to move this thing around. Usually they have the secondary and tertiary skills to do that, and they're able to contribute to that. Next time I have another job, I bring them on for those things as well. So it's important to have a really, really deep specialized skill, but it's always very nice to have secondary and tertiary skills to support the project when needed.
Greg, anything you want to add?
I think Matt nailed it. Just say it and show it and be it. And over a long enough period of time, you are it. You are a designer. You are an animator. If you set yourself up for success and just tell the world that that's who you are.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say to Matthew, say it, but don't spray it. Matthew, you got me on the face.
I'm sorry, am I spitting?
He gets really excited, you guys.
I do.
It's totally okay. All right, I think now it's time for us to go into question lightning round. So I got my iPad here. I've been watching you guys. See how that works?
Whoa.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to be super crazy and cranky because it's time for us to end this stream. It really is. Grant and company, you guys have been super eerily quiet. Do you guys have any questions? I'll take your questions first.
I think
Or
we've
comments?
just been, I've been just soaking in and learning about everything. I did have one question, though. When you're talking about remote workers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
for blind, are there a lot of remote workers?
Matthew, Greg?
I would, for me, about like maybe 10 to 15% of my jobs I use remote work. Meaning, like, either I've worked with them in the past or I found them as a specialist online, and it seems like they've worked with other clients I could trust, have a conversation with them. It's like, oh, this guy's trustworthy, and I have them help out on projects. So about 10 to 15%. The rest are all in-house.
Yeah.
What about a remote worker that you've never had come in-house at all?
I've worked with a couple.
Yeah, same here. I have like one of my favorite character After Effects animators lives in the UK. Chances are we'll never meet. I hope we do one day. And I found him through Twitter as like a friend of a friend referral. I had a quick conversation with him. He had great work, and I've worked with him on several projects. I was just talking through Slack and email most of the time. It's worked out great.
Cool.
All right. I'm not pandering to our audience, but I almost always work exclusively with remote workers. I don't care if I've ever worked with them before. When they have a good portfolio, I want to hire them. I talk to them. We exchange dialogue. If I don't get spooked from weird responses or really long times and their English is okay, I'll hire them because I just like their work. But I'm also pretty good at picking out talent that I think is a good fit for the job. And I spend a lot of time sourcing good people. And I was talking to my friend Carrie Green earlier today, and she said, Chris, it's been really difficult. I've been burned several times when I bring in somebody to do the work. They don't show up, meaning like they don't show up and do the work that they're supposed to do. And what's wrong? And I said to her, I think there's a problem in your vetting process because I don't have that same problem. Maybe you're too eager to look at work when you're vetting people to say, yeah, that's kind of close. Let's bring those people in. So I exhaust my list. And I say here, in this moment here, if you're an independent business owner and you need to bring in freelancers, what you need to do is be the ant, like the little insect, the ant. The ant has some very virtuous qualities about him. He works all year long to prepare for the winter. So during the spring and the summer, when everybody's doing what they're doing, they're just stockpiling food. So when winter comes, they have plenty to eat. So for us, I don't wait until there's a need to find somebody because that puts me into a situation, a bind, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to paint myself into a corner. So all year long, for the last 22 years, all I do is stockpile up people who I think are talented. I bookmark them, I save their website information, I save their business card. I store an old noggin here, or I tell Greg and Matthew about it. Hey, there's some good people. I don't know when the opportunity is going to come up with, when you're going to need these people, but just make sure that you're aware of them, and so that way if you get into a situation that you can use them, you can hire them. So I'm working with a lot of lettering artists, designers, offsite illustrators, very specialized people, and I love the relationship of working with them. One, they take up no overhead for me. They're working at home. I don't have to supply them with anything. Two, they're super comfortable. And three, I tell them I'm going to be the best client you've ever had because I did my due diligence and I picked you very deliberately. I'm going to let you do what you do. You do you. I'll pay you. What are your terms? Let's get going. As long as they don't drop the ball, I'm good. I don't think in recent memory, meaning the last 5-10 years, I've had a bad experience there. I do my best to vet people online. And I'm extra careful if I've never worked with them. But once that is done, we have a great relationship. All right, I'm going to knock this out, you guys. Lucas asks, how do you make $1 million in one day? I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't tell you. Let's keep moving on.
You charge him for it.
I charge you $1 million to tell you that answer. And the answer will take only one day. It's mysterious. Is it worth hiring a rep if you live in a location outside of a major city? Absolutely. If you don't live in a major city, your only source is going to be a rep. So go hire the rep. What else, guys? After design school, what were your first jobs and how did you get them? I've told this story before. I got freelance work doing motion design, and I got it because my work appeared on the Adobe After Effects CD-ROM 1.0. How would a freelancer go about getting on Greg and Matt's radar? Social media, probably. Hit them up.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep commenting, Greg, on the comments, and I think you'll get their attention.
Slide into the DMs.
Yeah, Ash Singh asks, I've been working for a relative for a while now, but I'm not getting paid. What do I do?
Stop working for him.
Talk to your parents and use them to mediate between parents. No, don't ever work for relatives, guys.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting paid, what are you going to do? Now you guys can't even see each other at family functions. Don't work with relatives. Okay. What else we got here? Look, I think this Tucker's asking this question about non-disclosure agreements. He's like, okay, so say I have spent 2 years creating non-disclosure content. Can I clip only the creative content created myself and share it? Like, you still want to learn how to break this, huh? Well, that's on you. I don't really know. I didn't sign your contract. I don't know. But I would advise you to tread very carefully and ask the company you work for, if I do this, can I share this? And that's the price you pay. Now, if you know this ahead of time, if you know that you're not going to break the non-disclosure agreement, which you're not supposed to, you can actually charge a premium for it. You say, look, if I can't show any of this work, I have to change my day rate with you. Because there's zero intrinsic value to me except for the rate that you're paying me. Whereas everywhere else I go, I can show the work, and it's beneficial to me because I can get more work. See if you can pull that off. And then if you do, send me 10%. What else we got, guys?
There's a question here from Sarah. She's from YouTube. She says, when you were students, how much did you focus on networking? What kind of context did you find useful later? I can answer that first.
Please, you just answer it, period.
Yeah,
unless somebody else wants to.
I didn't really do much networking at all other than my peers in school. I made really good friends with a lot of people, and those same people a decade later, I'm still in touch with, and I hit them up for work. We contact each other for work because we're all in different places now, successful in our own right, in very different companies, different verticals, and we're able to leverage each other's skills and positions and talents. I've done business with a lot of peers or hired them for things. So that was a really good network for me. It's just my immediate peers. I didn't go out to any networking events or anything like that. I was too shy and introverted for that.
Who else has got a question?
I have one from Facebook. So Chris Gentry asks, and I'm quoting him here, can an old fart like me, 44, break into this game, or am I wasting my time?
Yeah, you can break into this game, but don't break a fart. Age is just a number, man. If you act mature and if you do the work, the problem that typically happens here, and people talk about this all the time, that when you pass a certain age, your, neuroplasticity is more rigid. It's less elastic, if you will. That becomes a problem. It's like trying to teach my mom how to use her iPhone. There's only so much I can do before I want to jump off a bridge, okay? And that's what happens. But there are people who are 90 years old that are going to college right now, and they're very different. They're hardwired different. Maybe you just had a set of circumstances, like you had to take care of a burgeoning family. You put everybody else's priority ahead of yours, but you still have that kind of spirit that you're really hungry. Why not? Go to school or do the work. Just go out there and get it. But it also concerns me that you're concerned about your age. I don't let anything that is about me at all stop me from doing what it is I want to do. Unless there's a physical limitation. And being older is not a physical limitation as far as I'm concerned. I do want to say this because I want to be realistic. If you're 45 years old or 44 years old and you're looking for an internship position, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. Like, what the heck is going on? But if you're really talented and you're very professional and you're not doing anything weird or different, I think a fair-minded person will give you a shot.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you're very clear with your objectives too, it's like, hey, I tried a lot of things. I was navigating different careers. I'm looking for this change. I've always had this passion for this thing. I know my skill level is way above maybe what this internship needs, but I'm really looking to grow in this area that I haven't had any experience for previously. I know my age is probably an issue and you're probably looking for somebody younger, but you just address the objection there and just say, I'll work just as hard as the young buck that you're considering.
Yeah. Good one. Sid Spills asks, how do you find new motion designers to work with? I think I answered that. We don't. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding, you guys. I'm just kidding. All right. Okay, hold on. They actually just reach out to us at this point. There's so many talented motion designer people out there. Like I said, the quality of education has gone through the roof. So more and more people coming out of school or have attended some of these courses and workshops, they come out really solid, ready, baked, and ready to be plugged in. A turnkey solution, if you will. So we don't have to work that hard to find them anymore. I have a problem cataloging all of them.
Yep.
How do you choose the right one? Or is there a right one?
Yes. Matthew, Greg, how do you choose the right one?
Just portfolio. If
Yeah.
the portfolio looks like the thing that I'm trying to create, then I'll hire that person.
But give them some parameters. What are you looking for?
Very specifically, if I have a job, I would break it down. I need a 3D character animator. I need a texture and lighting artist. I need a compositor. I need an editor to put it together. Might need a sound guy to do the sound design. And I need a producer to keep it all running. So I look for each of those specific things, look at their portfolio or resumes for the producers or just word of mouth, and then I just fill those buckets. So I break it down into the smallest bite-sized bucket I can and break up all those tasks so that it's easy to assign roles to each of those people.
What about their attitude?
Attitude, usually if it's word of mouth, I don't second guess. Like if one or two people in my network have said, this guy's awesome, you should hire him, I don't even question it, I bring him in. Attitude's super important. If somebody's non-responsive like Chris is saying, or if they are just like, they're just the attitude is like very, very important. I think Greg said that's the number one thing, and I kind of sway that direction. So attitude is super important.
Another thing I like to do, if I have to build out a team full of specialists, if I can, and I'm struggling, let's say, to find the right people, if I find one person who fits that, I'll kind of talk with them about the whole project and say, like, here's what I envision for the team. Do you know anyone who you think might be a good fit for this team, for the thing we're trying to do? Because chances are they know a ton of people that I don't, that they might feel would be great.
Okay, I think I've isolated 4 or 5 questions/comments to end the show on, you guys. And then I'll need a minute to cue up the music and the end slate, which Molly has updated for me. Let's go. You guys ready for this? All right. Anton says, what a stream. Wow, pure gold. It must be Grant and his team. It must be pure gold.
Yep.
They're liking this. I love it.
We're live tweeting.
You like tweeting with people?
You're welcome.
I love it. Thank you, guys. We'll send you a royalty check from this episode of $0, so you guys can collect it all.
Well, what are we
Amp
ready?
Studio says, I will send you 15%. Everybody screen cap that. Amp Studio, we're going to hold you to it, man. Send us our 15%, all right? And here's a good one here. Where is that question? About the interview and the hair gel. Here we go. Ad Lloyd said, when interviewing for a job, what hair gel should I consider if I am bald but have great motion portfolio? You should not wear hair gel because it'll make your head super shiny, dude. Use a matte cream. Nobody likes a shiny head or a face.
Pro
This is
tip.
not good. Pro tip. All right. There's a brand actually called Cosmedicine. If you use it, it'll actually take the sheen. If you have an oily scalp like mine, that's what you do. Okay, there's one more in here. I think I'm ready to wrap the show, you guys. We're going to end it on this. Massman Pro says, Chris, why are you so freaking snappy? Because 2 reasons. 1, people keep asking the same questions. It's killing me. Like you guys don't want to learn it or something. Number 2, the internet is full of gentle people. I don't want to be like everybody else. So for right now, this is what you guys have to live with. And you guys, with that, let me cue this part up. Here we go. play the outro music. I'm going to end this on a dark note, Erica, so I'm going to ask you, like, let us live for a little bit. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I want to remind you, you are not defined by your past. The future is what you make it. Enjoy these dark, dark tunes from Adam Sanborn. It's our theme song. It's custom for us, guys. See you tomorrow.